Hi, this is Yulia, and you are watching my channel, Rebels and Revolutions. This is my 27th episode, and by the way, last week I celebrated the 2-year anniversary of my channel. And yet I have not addressed the mother of all revolutions, the one that took place in Petrograd, Russia in the year that changed the world, 1917. The complexity of this topic is truly overwhelming, and creating a neat little narrative that would fit into a 45 or so minute slot is nearly impossible, but I'll do my best.
Товарищи, рабоче-крестьянская революция, о необходимости которой все время говорили большевики, совершилась!
My research has been derived from many primary sources from the Russian archives. Some of the most powerful sources were letters from Russian soldiers who wrote home during the First World War. This video is my take on these truly revolutionary events that have had an unexpectedly long and widespread impact on the history of the world during the last 100 years. The most common version of these events in the year 1917 can be summarized in just 5 sentences. Russia was a backwards country, led by a weak monarch who was controlled by his German-born wife and Siberian peasant of questionable moral and hygienic standards, Rasputin. Russian soldiers during World War I were under-equipped and undernourished compared to their German and Austrian counterparts. This made Russian soldiers easy prey to communist agitators. The overall population was hungry, tired of war, and the autocratic rule of the Tzar. With the government unable to maintain law and order, the situation spun out of control, allowing the Bolsheviks to seize the moment and overthrow the bourgeoisie. While some of the elements of this are correct, I would like to offer a different interpretation of these events. Let's start with the obvious fact. We are not talking about a single revolution here. Instead, we're talking about 2 of them. The first one toppled the Russian monarchy, the February Revolution, leading to a very brief era of liberalish government. This new state was quickly demolished by the much more extreme and unexpected October Revolution, which brought Lenin and the Bolshevik Party to power. They eventually imposed a communist dictatorship that proclaimed an open-ended revolution. In all my previous episodes, my goal was always to remain as objective as possible while presenting relevant facts, no matter what side of the argument they supported. This topic is too important to me personally to withhold judgment, and while hindsight is 20/20, I hope my viewers will forgive me for expressing my judgment. I will judge the Russian ruling elite of 1917 for attempting to grab as much power as they could, as Russia stood on the brink of a glorious victory in a horrible war. After years of tribulations and horrendous losses, the Russian military was stronger than ever. The Russian economy was doing extremely well, at a near 10% GDP, while Russia stood to benefit from the upcoming victory. Seeing this moment as their chance, each of the major political players tried hard to destabilize the situation and discredit the Tsar's government. When they finally succeeded, they got more than what they bargained for, with many paying with their lives for the lack of foresight. I will judge the Russian intellectual elite for playing dangerous games with the new and seemingly exciting Marxist notions without realizing where it could lead. They saw what the anarchy and absence of the rule of law could do from the horrific experience of the French Revolution, yet they ignored its lessons. I will judge Tsar Nicholas, who was among the more honorable actors in this drama, yet he failed to realize that times were changing, and Russia was in need of a new political system. Instead, he continued to adhere to the antiquated Russian notion of самый державный, the autocratic rule. Though he was vested with nearly absolute power, he failed to exercise it to keep the country from disintegrating. I will judge the Western allies, and the British SAS in particular, that did more than its fair share to exert political influence to encourage Russia to continue the war with Germany and Austro-Hungary in order to relieve the pressure on the Western Front. Once again, I'm convinced that Russia had no real stakes in that fight, aside from the pan-Slavic notions and the prospect of controlling the Dardanelles. Above all, I will cast my judgment on a small group of international charlatans, political opportunists, and downright criminals who form the leadership of the Bolshevik Party. I know that these are harsh words. Going into my research, I really did not have many biases, yet after reading biographies of V.E. Lenin, Ulyanov, Trotsky, Lev Bronstein, and Stalin, Josip Vissarionovich, I realized that they were not nice guys. Not were they only loosely connected to Russia, they really weren't driven by a desire to liberate workers and peasants. They simply wanted power at all costs, even at the cost of selling the entire country to its enemy that it had fought for 3 long years. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's do something a bit strange and talk about my conclusions, in the next episode that is, even before we recount the events leading up to this great catastrophe. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks so much for giving me your time and watching my channel, Rebels and Revolutions.